Hey everybody, in this video I'm just going to show how you can set up multiple camera positions in a motion design level so that when you're playing back those levels as a set of pages in Rundown, the camera position just moves based on a camera setting. So here I've got a camera select and I've got camera 1 and camera 2 and camera 3, and you can absolutely do this in Rundown and in Motion Design. So let's take a look. It's actually pretty easy to set up. So I'm close this for now, and yeah, sure, let's close everything. So here is the level that I've got. This is just a free stylized environment from Fab, and I have 3 Cine cameras set up. So 1, 2, 3. These are all Ava Cine cameras. But I mean, they can just be any Cine camera. So there's one here that's looking at the rectangle. There's one way out here that's looking at the star. And then this one right here looking at the circle. I've got them numbered 1, 2, and 3. But the important thing is I've added a modifier to them. So this is, of course, the operator stack. So you click on operator stack to show that. And I have it docked here. And the camera priority value is what signals Rundown as to which camera should get the priority in terms of rendering. The other thing is that this modifier also has some blend time and blend exposure settings. What I'm doing is exposing the priority. So let's start this out like I don't have any of this set up right now, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and delete all of my modifiers. And I'll delete everything from remote control. So we set this up from scratch. All right, so remote control is empty. These guys are all empty when it comes to modifiers. And so the final thing about this particular setup, particularly since this environment's pretty involved and has some foliage, grass and everything, what I did was set up a parent level, and that is MD parent level, and that is the overall container that has transition logic enabled. And I just selected one of the defaults like L3 General just so that it has a layer name so that transition logic will work. I did not set up any sequences whatsoever, so there's nothing up my sleeve there. And we just have these 3 cameras placed. If I go to Motion Design Outliner, these 3 cameras are placed in this persistent level. Now I have a sub-level that is the actual container of this forest. So this forest is a sub-level. And by doing this as a sub-level, it'll get loaded with the first Rundown page, and then it'll stay in place as we move from page to page to page, because the only thing changing is going to be the persistent level values. And so this way we won't be like reconstructing this forest. If I just placed these cameras directly into the forest itself and just had the one level, every time I moved from one page to the next, the foliage would regenerate and you'd kind of see a big of a mess. So, all right, let's go ahead and save all the changes right now. So the first thing I need to do is add this modifier to my 3 cameras. So I'm going to select them in my Motion Design Outliner. There are the 3 camera views, and in the operator stack, if it's not showing, you can click the operator stack button. I'm going to add modifiers, and since everything's selected as a camera, I'm going to choose camera priority. All right, so here I'm going to set the first camera to priority 2, and I will leave the other 2 set to 0. Whichever camera has the highest priority value is the one that the Rundown will use. And then finally, I have transition parameters. So I'll select all of these cameras and expose the transition parameters. And I'm just going to set the blend time to 2, and that gives like a 2-second travel between cameras when pages are unloaded and loaded. And that takes care of that. Now, in remote control, I have nothing, and I want to be able to allow the operator to select which camera will be used from one page to the next. So what I'll do is expose the priority value for all 3 cameras to remote control by clicking this. So there they all are. And looks like if I extend this owner right, so camera 1, camera 2, camera 3. So what I want to do is make this as easy as possible for the operator. And so the operator is going to select what camera they're going to use based on a integer controller. So I'm going to create a controller integer, and this controller ID will be cam select. And by default, the input value will be 1. Now, we have 3 different properties, but only 1 controller. And so how we're going to resolve this discrepancy is that I'm going to select the controller, and the behavior it's going to use is conditional. So this way, if I select that behavior, we can have different actions happen based on the input value. Now, I want this, again, to be as easy as possible for the operator. So what I'll do is have the default value be selecting camera 1 over here. And that means that I'm going to have this input value of 2, choose camera 2. I'll have an input value of 3, choose camera 3, and then else, anything else is going to choose camera 1. So I'll start with input value 2, and I will set my camera 2 priority to 2. I'll set this one to 0. I could have used 1. I don't know why I'm using 2. I'm just being extra cautious here. So I am selecting all 3 of these properties. I've got input value of 2 set for my conditional bind, and I'll drag this into actions. So now the camera 2 gets 2, and the other 2 cameras get 0. And then for an input value of 3, I want camera 3 to have the highest value, and the other 2 to be lower, and drag that over. And so now those values are in there. And now finally, else, instead of an input value, that's when I want camera 1 to have the highest value. So let's select these, drag and drop that. And now we've got all of those priorities set. And I can test this with changing my input value, right? So if I do 2, 3, we can see these values moving, 1. And even if I do 10, this is good, right? So if I have 2, we're good. If I do 10, we go back to camera 1. Okay. So all of that works. Control-Shift-S. And that should be the entirety of the setup. So I'll just create a new rundown from scratch. Right-click and delete this rundown. And let's start with a brand new one. So motion design and motion design rundown. Double-click. I will drag and drop my motion design parent level in here, and then I'll drag down 3 different pages. And page 1, camera select will be 1. Page 2, camera select will be 2. Enter. And page 3, camera select will be 3. Enter. Okay, so we'll start on page 1 and preview that in. And here we go. We're now on the first camera. And if I preview next, we should just move over to the second camera. And preview next again, and we move on to camera 3. Now this will continue to loop, so I can preview next again, and there you go. Now of course I can have more elaborate operations happening with each of these pages where we're loading some kind of content to be shown in each of these shapes, but hopefully this helps, and until next time, have fun.